Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Hangout from Liferay's dev.life sessions. If this is your first time here, welcome. Thank you for joining us. We do these, like to do them every two weeks, but sometimes we have gaps, like the one most recently. But for now, we are back, and I'm going to briefly describe what this is all about and what's coming up, and then we'll get to our session for today. Liferay's dev.life sessions are hangouts with Liferay developers talking about Liferay development topics. These aren't polished one-way presentations. These are intended to be very interactive. So if you have questions, join our hangout. We have an IRC chat room. There's instructions on the page, on the home page. And actually, I'm going to share my screen real quick so you can see what that looks like. And before we go off into a black hole, so here's the homepage, which you're hopefully on today. If you want, there's a little chat window at the bottom here. You can connect to our chat room, and we'll be watching that, looking for questions throughout the session. As far as upcoming sessions, so today we'll talk about today in a moment. I just want to briefly tell you what's happening in the next couple of weeks. So on May 26th, we will have Andrew Jardine from our Liferay community talking about Liferay's message bus and some how to use it, some interesting use cases. And that's a really great session. And then following that, we haven't quite set a date yet. It'll be soon after that. We'll have Kamesh Sampath talking about Liferay workflow. So if you've never used workflow, or if you've kind of heard of it, but you're not really sure what it can do, be sure not to miss that one. And then we'll have additional sessions throughout the year on various development topics. So for today, I'm very happy to have Jim Hinkey. Let's see if I can stop my screen sharing somehow. There it is. So today, I'm very happy to have Jim Hinkey. Jim is from our knowledge management team here at Liferay. His team is responsible for not only the wonderful documentation that you find on the Liferay Developer Network, but also the developer network itself and all of the other accompanying documentation, reference docs, Java docs, taglib docs, JavaScript documentation, all kinds of interesting things that developers need in order to get started. So I'm going to hand it over to Jim. You can see him there in the corner. So welcome, Jim, and thank you again. Oh, actually, before we go switch to Jim, so if anyone else wants to do a session, I'd love to see people get out and give a little bit back to our community and tell us what you know. You'll be awarded this very wonderful T-shirt here, which you can hopefully see. So everyone who does a session gets one of these, and you get bragging rights, and you get undying gratitude from me and the rest of our community. So please, if you have some knowledge about certain areas of Liferay development or just development in general, and you want to get under the bright lights and get recorded on air and be part of our community, just let me know. You can find me on IRC, you can find me on email, on Twitter, all kinds of social media outlets. It's not hard to find me. So, okay, having said that, thank you very much, Jim, for coming today, and I'm going to switch it over to you. And how's it going?
Oh, it's going great. Thanks, James. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for coming. I know documentation is a very passionate subject for pretty much every single Liferay developer, so I'm very happy to have you on today to talk about it. So take it away.
Well, great. I'm really excited to share about how we use the knowledge base application in Liferay, specifically for LDN, Liferay Developer Network. We use it all the time, so this should be a walk in the park for me. But what I want to do is I really want to convey to you not only the features that are coming out in the knowledge base application, the new one which is yet to be released, but available in development in the CE Liferay plugins repository. But I wanted to show you how you can use it in your to create a solution for your documentation. Maybe you have user guides or topical articles, or maybe you want to have books that you want to organize things as online books. So the knowledge base can definitely help you accomplish that. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen in a minute, and I'm going to be going back and forth between slides and between hands-on setup and creation of articles. So here's the overview of what we'll be going over today. First is learning the new features that are coming in the knowledge base app that you have access to right now in development in that 6.2.x branch of Liferay plugins. But then we'll go into creating and importing your own knowledge base articles from Markdown source, organizing and displaying your articles in various ways, in hierarchies, showing, organizing, prioritizing them, or that is like ordering them, and also using this selector that you probably see on most of the Liferay documentation pages on LDN. And lastly is we want to show you how we go about facilitating contributions to our documentation as well. And that's built into the knowledge base portlet too.
Hey, Jim, real quick question. So what typical use cases would you use this for other than the obvious, which is what we use it for?
Sure. Okay, so yeah, we use it for official documentation, right? But also in Liferay, and even as a customer, as an EE subscriber, you have access to knowledge base articles um, that that you have through that subscription. So our global support team provides that knowledge base, and that's kind of a different. That's like organized differently, more topically. It doesn't. You don't see book format in there. It's probably, I think it's more of a flat organization of articles, whereas with the official docs, you see more hierarchies. Yeah, does that help answer your question, James?
Yeah, it does. I think I'm kind of trying to mentally put this in a box. Like it's kind of a collaboration tool. At the same time, it's like a publication tool, and we have users who have websites and the responsibility is to basically share information throughout a company. So, for example, it's like a consulting company, and they need to go on site with a client. They need to get documentation before they get there, and they need to be able to search and find it easily and topically, like you mentioned. And it seems like that's a really good use case for this as well.
Right, it is. Yeah. Okay, so I'll go over some of the features that you'll start seeing and that you already see in LDN. So one of them is that it's a full page application. Okay, so I'll drag over my LDN view in here, and okay, so here you can see if you go to really any of these articles, it's a full page application. So we're at Discover Portal, learning how to use Portal, learning Portal's features, and so this takes up the full screen. This is one portlet here. Another big part of the overhaul of the display is the hierarchy that can be shown, the navigation that can be shown here on the left. So you'll get that navigation in there. And then more things too at the bottom of, okay, so we're looking at a top level article here. What is Liferay? And this has child articles or children or subsections. And all those are listed here in abstract format at the bottom of the display portlet. So that's a very nice thing too. Another thing is that you do have navigation to the next article. So you can click that. That's available at the bottom of the display page portlet. So you can go backwards and forwards between articles. And I mentioned contributing to to a knowledge base, and so we provide this you can provide access to your source code that created the article. And so this is something that's great, is that if folks see errors, typos, or maybe they even want to contribute to an existing article, you can click the Edit on GitHub button, and that takes the user right to the article's source location in the repository of your choice. Okay, so we labeled the button Edit on GitHub on LDN, but you can label it whatever you want. If you're using Bitbucket or some other repository, as long as you can provide a URL to it, then you can provide a button that makes sense for you, that will take people to that repository. I'll explain some more about contributing a little bit later on. So once you get into a repository location, you're going to have to leave it up to the repository's features. Git provides ways of editing files right there online in GitHub. So somebody can start editing a file and can commit their changes and then and then send them to Liferay. But you might have a different means of doing that in a different repository. So that's another feature of the display. And then lastly is when you're signed into LDN, I'm just going to do that real quick. You also have the opportunity to provide suggestions for the article that you're viewing. So let's see here. Okay. So we go down to the bottom of this article, and you can say, okay, you can give a thumbs up rating, thumbs down rating. You can offer a suggestion as well. Type in that suggestion and submit that so that the article author can review your suggestion and take that into consideration. Okay, so and one last point is that the knowledge base display portlet has it's been overhauled, and it's really been its focus is on displaying articles, sets of articles. So the administration for knowledge base articles and most of the editing features are done more naturally through site administration. Okay, and I'll show you that as well. So the admin portlet, or the knowledge base page and site administration, provides these new features. One of them is creating folders to organize your articles, managing those suggestions that your readers supply to you, and then importing articles in a zip in markdown source files, which is going to take up, which is what we're going to demonstrate here today for the most part. But taking a quick look at the admin page, and I'll bring this up in our test server. This is our user acceptance test server. Okay, so like I said, you go to site administration, content, and knowledge base portlet has a page inside of site administration. So here you can see we have different folders organized. Like here in develop, we have like learning paths, tutorials, and this naturally helps us organize our documentation. We have folders for different versions of our articles, and then the articles themselves. And I notice here too, there's the prioritizing articles. So you can, when you specify a priority for an article, and this is a feature that's been in knowledge base for a while, but some people don't it might not be obvious, but the lower the priority, the higher up the article is shown in the display portlet. So the knowledge base app has been improved so that it has an option so that by default, when you create a new article, the new article gets the next highest priority, which actually puts it lower on the display. So naturally, it just starts creating this, a prioritization for you. But you can change priorities if you want, from in here. And if I want to change this to 2.5, go up to actions and save those priority changes, you can do that. And I'll show you how you can change prioritizations inside of the Markdown source files as well.
Does that then change the display order?
It does. It does. So, okay. So I'll change these two sections here, just real quick. This is on the test server. Okay, so we're going to switch so that Maven build environment is listed before plugins SDK.
As it should be. That's a joke.
The Maven fans out there. Okay. See? Okay, so we're in 6.2. There's Maven build environment. Now here's plugins SDK. So there you have it. James has his way. Okay, so those are the features in the admin portlet. Back to the slides. So the import features that we have now are the ability for the knowledge base to import articles in Markdown format, which is a text format that's is really easy to use, and we'll explain more about that. You can import. Of course, you want to be able to import the images that your articles reference. And you can specify an article hierarchy. You can specify priorities from those source files. And you can also give like a common base URL for your articles. Okay. So, when you enable the ability for the reader to edit your article in your repository, typically you'll have your all of your files like for an article in the same folder, or some similar folder in your repository, and you can provide that as a base URL and actually have the knowledge base importer piece together the friendly URL for each of your articles. All right. Okay, so Liferay's official documentation. We write it locally, and then we store it on GitHub. This makes it easier for us to collaborate. So I think you'll find it easier too if you're writing extensive documentation and collaborating on it for publishing purposes. You'll be able to do diffs on it much easier, especially if you're using Markdown. So you're able to control the source, control the articles much better from locally and using repository and all that repositories have to offer. So, and also we facilitate contributions. We receive many pull requests of contributions to the articles, and we use a converter, a Markdown to HTML converter called Pegdown, the Pegdown parser, and that's actually supplied to you in the Liferay docs demo zip file that I gave to you. We won't go into too much detail here, but at least you have this for your reference. Markdown supports headers, bolding, ordered lists. I mean, these are things that you would always expect to see in a markup type language. We've added a sidebar extension. So what's a sidebar? So when you look at an article and you see, let's go here to something that has a sidebar in it. Okay, so this right here, you notice we wrapped it in a border, and we have a nice little image in front of it. That's something that we've added to our theme in LDN. But this is all a div, an HTML div that your theme developer can style so that you can have sidebar type style or content in your article. Okay, and then this link here will tell you more about the multi-markdown version of Markdown that we use. Okay, so getting to next, we're going to get into your hands-on experience of building your own articles and using the knowledge base Portlet to publish. James, is there any questions on those existing features, those new features before moving on?
Yeah, one quick question. This is my question. You mentioned that we use GitHub to store the source to the articles. Could you not do that and just write the articles directly in Liferay, like in the administration area for knowledge base?
You sure can. Yeah.
Okay. You don't have to show it, but.
Yeah. Okay. Sure.
And then the other question is, what's the difference between knowledge base Portlet and wiki Portlet?
Yeah, the wiki Portlet is, it doesn't have the organizational features that the knowledge base has. It's more geared towards contribution than, than the knowledge base is, I would say. But yeah, I would say the other portlets that are inside the knowledge base application, such as the single article viewer, it's called the knowledge base article portlet, and the knowledge base sections portlet, provide different ways for you to show your knowledge base articles or links to them. So that's those are some other features that it has, and you'll learn more about that and when the document, when it's released, and you'll see the documentation for it.
Okay.
Okay, so so these are the setup requirements for following along with building your own knowledge base, your own local articles. Inside the Liferay Docs demo zip file that was posted there, we have the libraries that you can use locally to convert Markdown to HTML. And there's also a converter script tool that you can use to run that conversion and see your files locally. Okay, so so I'll show you that right now. Is bring up a file viewer. Okay, so here's the zip file, and then when you go inside, when you unzip it, you have these libraries. Okay, so it has the peg down parser and all of its dependencies, and it has the Markdown converter. And these are the same libraries that are used by the knowledge base application. So we're using the same, you have your hands on the same things locally for yourself. In the bin directory, there's a convert.bat file and a convert.sh file for you to use. And you'll want to put the bin directory in your path. So, if you want to do that quickly, you can open up your computer's properties. Let's see here. I've already done this, but yeah, you can configure your path and add that bin directory to the end of your path. Okay. All right. So, and then a quick test to make sure that that works is opening up a terminal window or a command prompt and running the convert script. So if you run it without pointing it to a Markdown file, it'll just print out the usage and tell you how to use it. So that's a good quick test to do. Okay, so you have all that. And then the other things were that you should have a running version of of 6.2 CE. And in fact, I'm going to go ahead and start that up. And you can run this, of course, from Liferay IDE or using the startup script in a terminal. Okay, while that's starting up, the last thing was get your hands on Liferay plugins repository, the 6.2.x branch of Liferay plugins, which is the CE version of the Liferay plugins. And in here, when you navigate, you can go to knowledge base Portlet, and that's where we'll be doing some work in there. So I've deployed the knowledge base Portlet as is. Just show a quick deployment of that. Okay, so here's one slide just telling you how to go about testing your convert script, and then some notes on the Liferay plugins SDK. You will want to configure, your plugins SDK. You can visit this URL on LDN, that tells you how to set up a plugins SDK, or you can configure it automatically inside of, Liferay IDE. But if you're configuring it in a build.properties file and using it from the terminal, then this is just an example of how you can configure it. I'm running with a bundle on Tomcat, and this happens to be my my parent directory for Liferay Portal. Okay, so it's started up. I'm going to open up a terminal to the knowledge base Portlet folder. Let's see here, Liferay plugins. Go into Portlets and then go into base Portlet. Okay, and I'm going to bring up the server log as well. And I'm going to, just for added measure, if you were doing this for the first time, you might want to do clean, compile, and then also we're going to compile the JSPs and then deploy it to the server. If you're using Liferay IDE, it does all that for you. All right, so while the JSPs are compiling, now I'm going to do ant deploy. All right, so it's going to deploy it to my Liferay instance, and start to see activity over here in the log, in my Tomcat log. It's starting now. It's deploying, and the knowledge base Portlet is available for use. Fantastic. All right, so what we're going to start getting into now is actually creating some markdown source files. That will be the source files for our articles. So we're going to create an article. We have to specify a friendly URL title in it, and then we're going to reference an image as well, and then we'll zip it up and import it. All right, so I'm going to do everything right here inside of my Liferay docs demo directory, just for kicks. And I'm going to open up an editor. I like to use JEdit to edit my markdown files, but you can use whatever editor you like. The JEdit has a markdown syntax highlighter in a Markdown plugin. Okay, so there is a requirement for the articles, and one of them is that I mentioned is the friendly URL title. Okay, so you need to have a friendly URL title so that the importer will know where to put it and how to reference it. The matching of existing articles and incoming articles is done using the friendly URL titles as well. Okay, so the format for a header in Markdown is just putting a £. That gives you a level 1 or H1 header, and if you want an H2 header, that would be 2 £, and then arbitrarily specify whatever your title or heading will be. The additional thing that we've added for specifying a friendly URL title, which is required, is using this syntax of specifying an ID and then a URL safe title. Okay, so we'll go ahead and do that. All right, so maybe I'll increase the zoom in on this a little bit.
Yeah, please. It's pretty small.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right, sorry about that. I'm not seeing the that option. Well, you know what? I'll use a use a different editor for it. How's this, James?
Yeah, that's definitely better.
Okay. And I can even increase that.
Yeah, if you can increase a little bit more, that'd be great.
Okay, so we'll call it my article, and then we'll specify friendly URL for it. Okay, and then we'll just write some text here. This is my first article. This is in bold. Demonstrate a little bit of the syntax. This is italics. And then here's an image. Okay, so there's an image file we want to use. The Markdown syntax for that is to the caption inside of the square brackets. And we could say that I really like Liferay faces. And I have an image we can use, or that I'll use. Okay, here's the Liferay faces logo. Copy that. I'm going to create a folder named images, and I'll paste the logo in there. All right. Okay, so we just need to specify the path to it. Since I'm going to save this file to the Liferay Docs demo directory, I'll just specify images and Liferay faces logo. Okay, time to save this off. Now you can put articles anywhere. You don't have to have a specific place for the importer to get them. They just need to be nested somewhere within the zip file. But I'm going to put them in the. I'm going to put this one in the root folder for now. I'll name it myarticle.markdown. Okay. Okay, so we have the article, and then we have an image here that I want to reference. Okay, so with packaging up your source files, you can have as many markdown article files as you like. Optionally, you can put them in folders and have image files. By default, they need to be in a folder named images. That's going to be in the root of the zip file. So we're going to zip this up, and we'll import it into the knowledge base. So I'll select the images folder. I'll select the article. Let's see here. I'll just send it to a zip file this way. Okay, so here's the zip file. It has images and it has the article. Let's bring up the knowledge base. Let me find that. Okay, so here's the portal. We're logged in here. We'll go to site administration content, because as I said, the admin portlet is the best place to add articles. All right, so here we are, and we're just going to put it here in the home directory. So we're going to use the import option, add import, and we'll browse and select our zip file. All right, so here it is, myarticle.zip. The prioritization strategy, you can leave this selected. There's very few use cases, I think, where you don't want to have this. We're not using any priority prefixes in our article names, but there won't be any harm done with us leaving that selected. We'll go over that later. Okay, so to import it, we click Save. Yay, it was successfully imported. There's our article. Okay, if we look at it in the editor, we'll see that it even got that friendly URL, that friendly URL title, my article, yay. I made it a little bit different from my article just to prove that that it's not the knowledge base that massages the friendly URL for you, that it's taking the one that we give it. Okay, so there it is. You can even see it in the editor here. But let's go bring it up on the display. It's just a single article, so it's not going to look all that flashy in the display. Since I mentioned that the display is really great at showing sets of articles. But let's see here. I'll call it KB1. And since the display portlet is meant to be viewed on a full page, I'll just configure this page to have one column. We'll go and select the knowledge base application, knowledge base display. Now by default, it will detect the one and only article that we have in there. Okay, so there it is, my article. But let's configure it we'll go to the gear and click configuration. You can see there's no article really officially selected. It's just showing whatever content it can get its hands on. But we'll select a parent for this display, and we'll explicitly choose that choose that article. Save, and there it is. Okay, so let's add some more articles though. So we'll go into, we'll create another article in there. Let's see here, we'll do it inside of this editor. Call it another article. Specify a URL title. Article 2. And I'm going to save it off to the same place. I'll call it another article. I'll make sure that it has that .markdown suffix. You can also use the suffix .md if you prefer. All right, so we have another article here, and we have my article. So let's zip them up. I'll select both of them. I'll select the images folder that my article refers to. And we'll send it to a zip file. I'll call it 2 articles. So we'll go ahead and we'll import them. All right. Oh, before we do that, I'm going to make one change to my article because I want to see how that gets up. I want to make sure that we can update an existing article. So in my article, I'll add one more thing in here. I'll say change is good. Save it. I have to zip it back up. Select both articles, the images folder. I'll call it 2 articles.zip. And let's go ahead and import it. So I'll browse and select it. I'll leave the default options, click save. Aha, okay. So when we look here at the results, it was successful. We see that my article was modified. Okay, so let's take a look at this in the display. Well, okay, let's take a look at my article and just view it from here. And we see change is good. Okay, so it got my change. That's great. Now I realized that the display portlet, we've only configured it to one article. Okay, let's see. There's my article and another article. Well, that's kind of interesting. So that's an interesting thing about the root folder, is that if you select an article that's in the root or the home folder, then it'll show all of its peers. Okay, but typically we'd want to organize them into a folder. You can see now how it does provide the navigation for you. So that's kind of nice.
Hey, Jim, I have a couple questions.
Sure.
The first question is, how does it know that the article has been updated and it's not a new article? Is it based off of that header at the top?
Right. If so the algorithm is like this, that if, okay, so it sees the incoming article, it sees its ID, that friendly URL title that's in the header, and it checks the knowledge base to see if there's an existing article with that same friendly URL. If it finds it, matches it, and it updates it. If it doesn't find one, then it creates a new article.
Okay, and then the next question is, can these updates be workflowed and or are they versioned within Liferay?
Yeah, they can be. Well, let's see. These updates from the importer, I haven't tested that use case yet to see if they would be workflowed. But you can, yeah, you can arrange. You can set up a workflow for people who are editing articles or adding articles within the portal. But I'll have to test out that use case. That's a good one.
Okay. And I mean, the question about versioning was because, like, if I mess up that first line and I accidentally put a character in there or something, or maybe my editor does it for me across hundreds of articles and I do the import and now I have, 200 articles instead of 100, I'm wondering how you get out of that. How do you back out of that mistake? Is there, like, I assume there's no, because it's not version, I don't think there's a button to say, like, undo. But, like, if you re-import it, it's still going to have those excess orphaned articles.
Okay, well, let's see. So one thing would be switching to an older version, right? Of an article. Is that one of your questions?
Switching to an older version of the article?
Yeah.
How do you do that?
Let's see here.
Okay, so it is versioned, yeah.
Yeah, it is versioned. Okay. Going into the history here.
There's the revert button.
Yeah. Yeah, so we can go back to it.
That's cool. And if you go to the workflow configuration, are knowledge base articles considered an asset that can be workflowed? Like if you go to the configuration on the left, and click on workflow.
All
Yeah,
right.
there you go.
Knowledge base article.
Question answered. Awesome.
Good. Thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So so we've done a couple articles. Let's do a hierarchy. Okay. So as you've seen inside of dev.liferay.com, we have hierarchies here. So how do you specify that? We'll go into that next. Okay, so to specify one article to be a parent of the articles around it, then we have a convention of using naming the file -intro.markdown. And as soon as the importer sees an article that has -intro.markdown, then all the other articles that come after it are all of its peer articles become all the articles in the same folder become its children, its child articles. Okay. And perhaps that's maybe to help illustrate that, let's look at Liferay's repo. So let's look at that. Let's see here. All right, I'll bring this over to the other screen. Okay, so we're in Liferay docs, the 6.2 branch. And if we look inside of like Discover, Portal, Articles, and inside this folder, we have the very first article that we put here has a -intro.markdown suffix. So when the importer reads that, when it processes these markdown files, it says, oh, okay, we have an intro file. I'm going to make this one a top level file inside this set of articles. And all of the other markdown files, they become child articles of it. Okay, so that's just one parent-child relationship. we've organized things. We've organized these articles into different folders. And if you compare this with LDN, the published articles, you'll see that, okay, what is Liferay? We have a folder that maps to it. And inside that folder, we have we have intro article, and then we have the 5 articles or 6 articles that are child articles of it. If I go back here and look at the other folders that we have, we've organized them in such a way that they correlate. Let's see here, I'll just make this a little bit smaller so you can see the correlation. Okay, you can see the correlation between the sections on LDN, web content, advanced web content, configuring Liferay. All these folders correlate to to parent articles and then child articles, children of those parent articles. So once again, let's just take a look in here. Let's look at web content management. Okay, so this this folder has a file in here that ends in intro.markdown, and that's the convention we use to designate it as a parent of any of the other article markdown files that are in the same folder. And then these 6 markdown files become its child articles. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. Let's organize a hierarchy inside of our little demo scripts or our demo articles. Okay, so we go back in here. Let's use a folder structure. Well, we don't even have to do that if we don't want to. But let's do it anyway, because that really makes sense. Okay. And we'll call it hierarchy. Okay, hierarchy. Okay, so we have the 2 articles, and let's make one of them an intro. So I'm going to add, I'll just make a copy of this. And I'm going to edit it. Bring my editor back in here. I'll say this is a parent article. Give it its own unique ID. Parent article. Okay, and then I'll rename it though. We'll do save as and give it that suffix that we want. Okay, so I'll say parent dash intro dot markdown. Save it off. So now we have an intro or a parent article, and then we have 2 children. Let's zip them up. All right, so I'm going to now it's nice and easy because I know this set of articles is in this folder called hierarchy. And then I'm going to select the images folder, and I'll send it to a zip file. My hierarchy. And we'll import it into our knowledge base. Back to our admin portlet. Now the importer is not intended for moving articles. So that's kind of a a complex thing that we'll have to work on. So I'm going to delete these for now, or for good. All right, so we're going to import a fresh here. We're going to select my hierarchy and say go for it. Okay, it was successful. Now, interestingly, we just have, at this top level, we have what we really would expect. We have this parent article. If we select that, go inside of it, we see that we have my article is one child and another article is another child article. Let's see, let's go set this up in the display portlet. So since I deleted the articles that the display portlet was pointing to before, it says, hey, you need to configure me. So let's configure that. And this time I'll select that parent article. Save it. And there we have it. We have our hierarchy. The parent article, the child, first child, second child. We have that nice abstract feature as well in the display. All right, well, let's make one quick change, though, to this hierarchy. Let's say we wanted to have my article listed first. Okay, listed above another article. Let's change the ordering of things. So we'll use prioritization. So back in, and we can do that just by appending prefixes to the articles. Okay, so we have the intro one. We don't have to worry about that. But you know what? Just for let's just go ahead and put a 01 in front of it. 01 dash. And then we're going to make my article be, we're going to give it a priority of 1 by giving it a prefix 01. And we'll make another article dot markdown be the second article. Call that 02. The importer will take any numerical prefix and it will change, it'll convert that into a priority. We can zip these up again. I'll call it prioritized hierarchy. Okay, so now remember that all these articles, they already exist in the knowledge base. So when we import, these are going to be updating those existing articles. So we're going to verify that it does indeed update the prioritization of those articles. Go back into site administration, content, knowledge base, and we'll import it again. We'll import the prioritized hierarchy. Now here, you definitely need to have the apply numerical prefixes of articles, article files as priorities selected. So let's do that and click save. Okay, it was successful. Now, I think the parent article was already assigned priority 1, so we didn't really notice anything different there. But when we go in and look at the child articles, lo and behold, my article now has a priority of 1, and another article has a newly assigned priority of 2. When we look at it in the display portlet, things are just as they should be, with my article coming before another article. So all that is good.
Hey Jim, quick question before you go on. If you have multiple, this is a question from the IRC channel from Dravida. If you have multiple parent articles, what logic does the knowledge base use to distinguish which articles belong to which parents? Or do you need to use a folder structure to make that?
You really should use a folder structure to make that. I think what happens is that the first intro article wins. So in other words, the one that is first in file order in that folder is the parent. And any other ones that have the -intro.markdown suffix in that same folder would become children of that parent.
Okay, so you should have multiple peer folders, and each of those folders should have an intro file along with the child.
Right.
So okay, and can you have nested hierarchies, or is it only two levels?
You can only go 2 levels.
Okay.
Yeah. Now the display portlet does support you manually creating, as n level hierarchy. Doesn't really look that great inside of navigation, but it's something you can do. So you can do it manually, but the importer doesn't support it.
Okay, and then I had an actual question as well. Can you make intra article references using like relative paths? If you wanted to have a link in one article to one of its peer articles, how would you do that within the Markdown?
Sure. So yeah, within the Markdown, okay, all that you would need to do is specify, yeah, okay. I think all you need to do is specify the, the context. Let's try it out. It's either knowledge base. See, in LDN, if you look at the context in here, okay, so if I wanted to reference building a site with Liferay web content, all I would need to do is provide a markdown link to the part that's after dev.liferay.com. Okay, so you can do the same thing by specifying a link in your article.
Yeah, but like that, the part of that URL, discover, that is not part of your Markdown anywhere, right? That's part of the Liferay page hierarchy.
Right. So yeah, you would have to copy paste that in.
Okay, so you wouldn't know the link until you actually posted it to the site, and then you grab the resulting URL.
Right.
So okay.
Yeah, or you know what the layout of the site's going to be.
Right.
And, yeah, you can figure it out beforehand and specify those kind of links. Yeah.
It just makes it challenging if you ever wanted to rename that page from Discover to something else.
Right.
Or if you have like a localized URL.
Right. Yeah, you have to do global replace.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. So we're at an hour here. I did want to show the edit on GitHub feature, our activating the source URL. That is it is documented in our draft for the upcoming release. Let's just see if there's anything else. Okay, I think this would be important to cover. James, do we have time for one more demonstration?
Yes, and the edit on GitHub thing is really interesting. I think at least you could show it because it's a very compelling way to take contributions with not wiki style contributions, but more controlled contributions.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Let's do that right now. So here I am. I'm in edit on GitHub, and or I'm on LDN. I can click on edit on GitHub, and it takes me here to the file's location. Okay. So I can click the edit this file, and let's make a change. I'll just say hello, dev.life. I'll just say that I'm demonstrating contributing using the edit button. Okay, I'm going to say to create a new branch. All right, so I will propose this file change. And what that does in GitHub is it brings up the pull request interface. And I will go ahead and I'll send this pull request. All right.
So just for other people out there, when I discovered this, I was like super happy because a lot of times you'll see some very simple, error like a misspelling or a table that's not quite formatted right. And if you're not a developer and you don't ever know how to use developer tools, you have no idea what to do other than complain about it. But now you have a button that you can easily submit that change and make it much easier for the development or the documentation team to take that change and incorporate it immediately into the docs. So it's a very easy way to contribute, and I welcome anyone who can make suggestions and changes like that. So Jim, what actually generates that link in the documentation?
Sure. Yeah. What happens is that, and so you need to enable that feature, um, enabling editing on GitHub using a property, and I have notes on that in this last slide here. Okay, so you do need to enable that feature, knowledge base source URL enable, and then what you should do is, okay, so let's say we're working on the social office set of documentation. Okay, so all those files. So I know that my file structure is discover and then another folder called social office, right? And then underneath there, I have my whole hierarchy of articles. Okay, so all those articles will have. So this social office folder, and I can go to it in another in a browser. Let's navigate to it. Okay, discover. I'm going to go into 6.2.x branch. Master right now is set for the 7.0 documentation. All right, so we'll go to discover, social office. You can see at this level we have the images folder, okay, just like we've been doing today in our local environment. So that has all the images for social office. And then we have a file structure here. And like I said, you can use as many nested folders as you want, but the importer will only support a 2-level hierarchy. We use an articles folder to store other subfolders, or in this case, we really just have an intro.markdown file and the child articles. Okay, so what happens is, back to the idea of using a base source URL is that in GitHub, when you want to view a file, the nicest view of it is the blob, or the binary long object of the file. Okay, and so that's the view we want to give people from the get-go. That way they get the nice interface. And we'll take a quick look at that. If we were to look at this intro file, okay, and look at this URL here, this is in a blob. Okay, so what we want to do is, since all those articles are in the okay, discover, social office, since they all start in this social office folder with this URL, then I'm going to zip up this articles folder and the images folder. That's going to be part of the zip file. Okay, and when the importer starts reading it, it keeps track of, okay, well, I find these articles inside of articles/O1 social office folder. It will keep track of those file paths, and it will add them to the base URL, which ends at the social office folder, and it'll attribute those file paths. So articles, O1 social office, okay, that's where this intro file lives. That's its relative directory. It'll tag that part of it onto the base URL to produce the edit on GitHub URL. And in fact, what I'll do is I'll just zip that up right now. I'm going to open up another window, and we'll zip up the social office files. Okay, we'll go to Liferay Docs and go into Discover Social Office. Just going to make sure I'm in the 6.2 branch. All right, so I'm in the 6.2.x branch, and I'll go and so from the social office folder, I'm going to zip up. I'm going to create a zip file. We have a script that a command called ant_dist that we can run, and we can create that zip file distribution. All right, so we'll go into that location. Liferay Docs, Discover, Social Office, and look inside of my dist directory. And inside there, I have this zip file. When we take a look inside of it, we have articles and images. So remember, articles has a subfolder called O1 Social Office, and in there are the markdown files. Okay, so that whole structure is inside of the zip file, that whole file structure. And we pass in a .metadata file that, let's see here. I'm just gonna say yes to these things, where we say, hey, the base URL for all of these markdown files is gonna be this. So the importer will say, okay, then what I'll do is I'll tack on whatever file structure is underneath that for that markdown file. Okay, so for the intro file, it would tack on articles, O1 social office, and then the file name .markdown. Now, if we look at, we can look at this inside of LDN. Okay, so I'm going to go inside, let's see, on dev.UAT, social office. Okay, so I'm going to look at this. I'm going to look at this article. It's kind of hard to see in here, but okay, this is an older version of social office. I'll go to it in LDN. Social office. Okay, that's the friendly URL, but then the source URL is down here. Once this is enabled using a property, then the source URL is down here. Now it's hard to see inside of this small text field, so I'm going to copy it into a file for us to look at, and I'll paste it. So here's the whole thing. The base URL was this, and then the rest of it came from that zip file. It just derived it from the zip file. That this markdown file's path was articles, social office, and then the file name. So that's where it gets it from. James, is that clear?
Yeah, that's absolutely clear.
It'll take some practice, and as I said, inside of in the official documentation that will be coming out, it has detailed instructions on how to set up .metadata files to pass in those base URLs. All right. Well, James, I think I'm going to have to wrap things up.
Yep.
Today. But I hope this was informative. We covered almost all of what we had in here. Selectable content sets and versions is something that you can read about how to use that. What that provides is creating like sets of similar data. So here we have different versions of Social Office, for instance. You can publish them to the same knowledge base display. So it's pretty easy to do. And you do that by organizing the file structure, the folders, knowledge base folders inside the admin portlet. All right, so that's all I have for today, James.
Okay, I don't see any questions on IRC right now. So, oh, one thing, Jay Handa, I think I know who that is. He mentioned that it is possible to do linking to articles, peer articles, by just referencing their IDs, the article IDs. So just if anyone's out there, then.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then another question from Jack Backer: will the PowerPoint be available via link? The slides that you're showing here, or the LibreOffice Impress file?
Sure, I can give that to you, James, to post up.
Yeah, we'll put it on the recap site, Jack. So on dev.life homepage, there's a recap site. And so we'll post not only a link to this video, but also to Jim's slides and the links to the tools that have already been there. They'll still be there for people who are watching this years and years and years from now, 10 years later.
Right, right. It's going to last forever, right?
Yeah, like a throwback Thursday kind of thing. So yeah, so thank you very much, Jim. That was always a pleasure to speak with you. So we're going to wrap for today. Just as a reminder, March 26th, we'll have Andrew on to talk about the Liferay's message bus. So definitely don't miss that one. That'll be a good one. Andrew's been on before, so he's already got his T-shirt. So maybe we'll, I don't know, send them a different one. We have a couple of different designs. It's actually a custom built just for the these particular sessions. So again, if anyone else out there wants to do a session, just let me know, and we'll have you on. No problem. So we'll wrap for now. And yeah, thanks again for everyone making time today to join us live. And if you're watching the video, then shout out to you. Have fun watching, or have fun. I guess you already had fun if you're watching this at the end. So we'll close for now. Talk to you later. Bye-bye. See you on the interwebs.
Thanks, James.
Yep.